Okay, back to Tech Talk. What's new? Version 4.2. Apparently we can't switch from live camera to screen. So here we go. So a little bit about our company quickly. We foster customers for life. So our customers distinguish Limestone Technologies as their best present and future solution provider. We remain accountable, so we're steadfastly committed to acting in a responsible manner to ensure reliability and eliminate any health and safety issues associated with our instrumentation and testing methodologies. Consistency. Our clients can be assured of fair and consistent service and pricing. Limestone Technologies is committed to policies that ensure equality for all of our clients. Innovation. So this is something that our company was founded on. We embrace new and better technologies as they become available. We continually change and adapt and take advantage of new opportunities and new technologies as they arise. We always challenge the status quo. So on to the new features. In version 4.0 moving forward, and our current version is 4.2010, we've added the newest Visual Studio library. So what that means for you is that we can adapt quickly, we can change to the new features within Windows, new hardware, develop new features rapidly, quickly, and be able to test them for reliability in a very quick manner. We now have new features added into our report generator, so it comes now loaded with a new updated report templates and customizable score sheets. I'm going to show you those live in a little bit. We've added new languages, or one language in particular, Hebrew. In our software, something that we've always built into our multi-language features, the ability to switch live from one language to another. So that means that if you're using our software in English or Spanish or Hebrew or whatever language it may be, you're using the most up-to-date version. You're not using an older one waiting for translations. We've increased the size of the question viewing area down below for people that have longer questions for TS style testing or DLSTs, or if your questions are typed out in Spanish, for example, which takes up more room. Made some enhancements in the front end. So specifically, I'm going to be referring to our archiving utility. So we now give you the ability to split your archives into different sizes. So that means if you have a large test with video, as an example, that you wish to email to somebody, you can choose your size. So any size you want. 20 megs is a standard limit for email attachments. And check the enable box, and that will allow you to split your session up into multiple files and attach it to multiple emails to get it where it needs to go. We also implemented password protection, so it uses AES 256 encryption, which is the highest available encryption for a zip file. So check that box that says enabled, and then it will ask you for a password when you click zip or zip an email. So we gave our multi-video window a new facelift, and I'll show you that live as well. But what we've done is all of the kind of additional little features that we've had, we've integrated them directly into the video itself. So that means you can see it post-test when you're playing back. So you can see the microphone, its amplitude, and specifically when people speak, you can see the microphone amplitude change and move. We've added question labels and markers so that they're directly on the video so that you can see them when you're reviewing your video post-test. So both of these things help you know whether if you're doing quality control in particular, your question asking or your spacebar pressing is timely. So when the examiner speaks or when you speak, you can hear yourself as well as see the audio bar move, and then you can see when the question has been asked. So you can determine whether there was an early reaction and you're not going to score that question, or whether you're a little slow on the spacebar and you are going to score that question. We also mark the exam chart numbers on there for you as well. So example right here, handsome looking guy. You You can see you can see the video title as well as the caption, date, time. Down at the very, very bottom, there's a green bar which indicates audio, where someone was speaking at this time. And you can see that during this time, or this point in physiology, it is exam 1, chart 3, and the asking of the question label C4. We've added Ple data into the ESS, and actually in our next release, which isn't it yet, but will be out very soon, we fully integrated ESSM. Optionally improved sample rate. So you can change the sample rate if you're using a Paragon now within the software, anywhere between 40, 80, 160, 240, 320, 400, 480, and 560 samples per second. We actually recommend that you leave it at the default rate of 80 samples per second, as that is the optimal sampling rate for your instrumentation. However, if you're interested in recording more samples for research or something similar, that's available to you. Auto question set advancing. So these features are in the chart recorder, and the auto question set advancing works kind of as described. So if you have an acquaintance test with 1 sequence and you have a zone with 3 sequences, after you end your first chart of your first acquaintance test, it will automatically move on to your zone comparison test, the first sequence, and then sequence 2, sequence 3. Previously, it would rotate, so it would go sequence 1, sequence 2, sequence 3, back to sequence 1, sequence 2, sequence 3. Now, if there's another question set that's been tagged afterwards, will automatically switch for you. Just less clicking and makes your life easier. So we've added some additional details to your chart. So now we've added the serial number of the instrument that was used, and you'll also get a timestamp when the chart was ended. So that means you'll get the exact time when you started, exact time when you ended, as well as the serial number of the instrument you were using. For our question timer, you can choose to have the timer begin to count after you finish your question to guarantee a guaranteed minimum time between questions. So, for example, previously, and all of our previous versions of the software, when you press the space bar to begin to ask the question, the timer bar would begin to rise. If you had set it to 21 seconds as a random example, it would begin then, and then it would flash telling you 21 seconds had elapsed since the beginning of your question. You now set it to the end, so that means you can guarantee a certain amount of space between your end of stimulus and the beginning of your next. Room temperature. So we've always had a temperature channel, and recently have developed hardware to measure the room temperature. So you can now, within your options, check a box and set it to stamp your room temperature directly on the chart if you wish. Auto centering. So in the chart recorder, you can auto center all of your tracings before each question, and this has kind of always been a feature that we've integrated in version 3 all the way up to version 4. You could turn it on and it would auto center all your tracings as soon as you started your question. In version 4, we maintained that feature, but it would produce a centering arrow, and not everyone liked that. So we've added the feature to suppress the centering arrow. So that means it'll recenter your tracings for you, but not give you an arrow. So it will redraw them. Customizable scratch pad. This is one that I like and that we've seen a lot of demand for. In all previous versions, we've had a scratch pad, so something you can use to score your charts, and it's been available. And it wasn't widely used because it was what we gave you. It was the way we decided to design it, and if you liked it, that was great, and you used it. If you didn't like it, then you wouldn't use it because you couldn't change it. Now it's an integrated Excel file, so you can just click the customize button down in the bottom right, and when you do, it will open up in Excel, and you can make any changes you wish. So that means you can put your company logo on it, you can make things run left to right instead of top to bottom, you can add sections for notes, you can do only 3 charts, you can do up to 5 charts, you can do whatever you want. Made some improvements in the hand calipers, mainly for the accuracy of them. So the time span bar used to be within seconds. Now it's down to tenths of a second, and the horizontal measuring Caliper will go down to tenths of, or 100ths of a second, sorry, 2 decimal places. Chart inclusion and exclusion. So we've added the ability to right-click on any of your tabs at the top and choose to exclude it. What this does is it marks it red so that if you send it away for QC, people can know that you didn't include that chart or you excluded it when you were scoring. It also lets the scoring algorithms know that you're not going to be scoring that, so it doesn't bother doing any measurements for you. You can examine the image to your chart along with your fingerprints. It's kind of something that's been existent in our software. There wasn't much versatility. So now when you take images or snapshots of your subject, previously you would just get the last snapshot you took. So if you didn't take a great picture of the last one, that's what you would get. Now you can right click and choose whichever image you would like if you've taken 3 or 4 of them. Response window markers. So this is something that's new in our software, fairly new since version 4, and that people are learning and teaching about scoring. And we're just trying to help you. So essentially you can turn it on. You can say to add the 5-second response window markers, and you can say from the response window, and you'll get a perfectly straight vertical line indicated by the arrow that will let you know it's exactly 5 seconds after when you marked your response. So modal response calculations and tracing. So with the PLE and new publications being available for scoring, we've added the vasomodal reaction ratio tool. So this will essentially allow you to compare vasomodal reactions from one question to another. What we do is we measure 3 seconds of PLE data. That's from systolic to diastolic, so the actual amplitude, and we calculate that average. We skip over 5 seconds, then we calculate the same number for the preceding 5 seconds. So we take those, divide them, and it gives us a ratio. So anything that is lower than 1 indicates a reaction or suppression on the PLE channel. Anything that is 1 or above indicates no reaction. We can then you can then compare questions back and forth. Perfect, thanks. That's it for the PowerPoint. Now I want to show you some of these features live. In particular, in the PowerPoint, there were a couple of small features missing that we very recently added to version 4.2010. I just mentioned the vasomodal ratio tool. So if we go into options, and we go to post-test analysis, if you choose vasomodal response here, second from the top under post-test analysis, it will calculate those values for you. Additionally, if you choose respiratory excursion for 1 and 2, it will calculate those values, but they won't be shown. So all the calculations will be done and be available to you. Under options, hiding and showing channels, you can turn those channels on. I'm going to turn on the vasomodal response right here and click apply. That's going to give me a brand new tracing, a new channel on my chart, and it will provide me with the numbers of the calculations as I previously described. So for C4, is giving me 0.78. What that means is we've measured 3 seconds preceding C4, calculated the average distance between systolic and diastolic for those 3 seconds, skipped over 5 seconds, and then measured the next 5 seconds. We've then taken this number here, the 5-second window, divided it by the preceding 3 seconds, and come up with a ratio, which is 0.78. We've done the same here for this relevant question, 0.7 over here, 0.86. So we have reactions on all 3 of these questions. Okay, so what I didn't mention in the PowerPoint, which we've very recently added, is under options. If we go to indicator thresholds, we can choose to enable a threshold for the vasomodal reaction, or ratio, And we can essentially assign some indicators here, and you can choose which ones you want. So the way this is set up is if the difference between two questions, so a comparison question and a relevant question, in this example here, C4 and R5, is anywhere between 1 and 1.10. So if it's just a 10% difference or less, we're going to mark a 0 on the chart. If it's 11% or higher, all the way up to 75%, I'm going to give it a minus if the RQ wins, or a plus if the CQ wins. And anything above that, I'm just going to put a not 0 or an indicator for a non-score. That doesn't mean that it's not scoreable. It means that as the examiner, I want to look at it closer because maybe there is a large movement or something's went wrong. Now when I hit apply, these values will be calculated and they will be placed around each relevant question compared to the adjacent comparison question. So R5, we look at this value, 0.70, we look at this value, 0.78, and it gets a minus. The difference between the two. This gets a minus the difference between these two, and so on throughout all of your questions throughout your chart. We've actually set up the exact same thing for your respiratory excursion channels. I'm going to turn this off so that we don't get too much on the chart at once. And the values are fairly similar. We can set them to whatever we want. I recommend 10%. After 10%, I would look at it as significant, is what most people are saying, and it's a fairly conservative number. So again, the same thing for respiratory excursion, except for we're looking at excursion, right? So line length between these two compared. This one has a 10% shorter line length, so it's going to get a plus. These two, the difference is not 10%, so it's going to get a 0. Okay, let's turn that off. Now, something else that wasn't mentioned in the PowerPoint is the ability to remove some centering markings. So I've created a center marking here in the cardio channel or the blood pressure channel. And if for some reason I didn't want that there, it was in the middle of the scoreable window, I could double click on it. And it would ask me if I want to remove it. I could say yes. It would be removed and adjusted back down. Okay, let's see what else we have in here. EDA raw and normal EDA gain mirroring. That just means that if I show both of these channels, when I move one, the other one will move with it as far as sensitivity goes. Moving the EDA automatic proportionally adjusts the EDA raw. Changing the EDA raw doesn't move the other one. It allows me to tweak it and get them so that their heights are set just about the same. Since I know now it's a fairly hot topic for people to be able to compare the auto and the raw EDA. Okay, so that's it for the new features. If people are interested in the Tech Talk, please share, please like, please comment, and let us know. And the next Tech Talk coming up will be on the ESSM and our new implementation of it. Thank you and have a good day.